1:03 a.m. Half a world away from the quiet American suburbs, a man-made earthquake just violently rearranged the global order in a fraction of a second. 200 feet deep beneath the unforgiving granite of the Natanz nuclear facility, Iran's supposedly impenetrable fortress has just been crushed into radioactive gravel. The executioner was an absolute apex predator, a 30,000-pound GBU, 5.7 AB massive ordnance penetrator, free-falling at 800 miles per hour from the belly of a B-21 Raider stealth bomber loitering silently at 55,000 feet. No declaration of war, no warning sirens, just an instantaneous $3.5 million deletion of a heavily funded billion-dollar dream. If you think dropping a bunker buster on a mountain is the end of the story, then you are not paying attention. But wait, there is one more lethal layer to this midnight slaughter. Stay focused, because that underground detonation was merely the opening bell to a brutal masterpiece. 2:15 a.m. The Persian Gulf is about to become a very expensive graveyard for arrogant ambitions. Deep inside their floating command centers, Iran's commanders are busy high-fiving and celebrating what they believe is a flawless asymmetrical trap. They unleash the blind swarm, sending 65 Zulfikar-class fast attack crafts tearing through the black water at 55 miles per hour to overwhelm the USS Gerald R. To make matters worse, 40 Noor anti-ship cruise missiles skim the waves at a terrifying 15 feet, screaming toward the $13 billion American supercarrier at 650 miles per hour. They are throwing everything they have, spending millions of dollars in a desperate bid to sink an American legend, confident that their electronic warfare drones are blinding the Aegis radar system. But here is the genius detail that separates the amateurs from the masters of modern warfare. If you look closely at the radar screens, you will realize the truth. 2:40 a.m. The air inside the Combat Information Center of the USS Gerald R. thickens as the massive ship executes a hard, evasive turn. Sonar suddenly paints a terrifying picture. A fresh, secret field of SAT-F-02 smart mines sitting exactly in the carrier's escape route. In the dark, the Iranian commanders are convinced they just checkmated the undisputed king of the ocean. But folks, here is the lethal error that happens when a regional player tries to play 3D chess against a superpower. They forgot to look up. 10 miles above the chaos, that B-21 Raider is not just a stealth bomber. It is a flying, heavily classified cyber warfare fortress. In less than 15 milliseconds, its tactical computers slice through Iran's encrypted radio networks like a hot knife through cheap butter. If you were an Iranian commander, you would be screaming for air cover right now. But wait, there is one more layer to this humiliation that no one saw coming until it was too late. 2:42 a.m. The tactical display inside the USS Winston S. Churchill is a glowing red nightmare of incoming hostile tracks, blinking furiously as the Iranian swarm closes the distance. The dilemma facing the American commanders right now is a brutal exercise in battlefield economics. Iran is throwing a massive, cheap wave of disposable garbage at a multi-billion-dollar carrier strike group, hoping to force the United States Navy to empty its high-end vertical launch cells before the real fight even begins. If you were the commander of this destroyer, staring at 65 incoming suicide boats and 40 sea-skimming missiles, you would be doing the agonizing math in your head. Do you fire a $2 million RIM 162 evolved Sea Sparrow missile to obliterate a $20,000 fiberglass boat? The Iranian strategy is obvious. Bleed the American magazines dry with the cheap stuff, so when the heavy ballistic killers eventually fall from the stratosphere, the fleet has nothing left to shoot back with. This is the asymmetric cost-exchange ratio that has kept naval strategists awake at night for decades. Most people just see a chaotic swarm of fast boats and drones tearing through the water, but those with a sharp tactical mind will recognize the real threat: a calculated attempt to bankrupt the fleet's defensive shield in mere minutes. Time to impact: 45 seconds. The tension is suffocating as the radar operators watch the Noor cruise missiles dropping even lower, hugging the curvature of the Earth to evade detection until the absolute last possible moment. But here is the catch that the Iranian planners completely missed when they designed this supposed masterstroke. They assumed the United States Navy would fight a 20th century battle of attrition, blindly trading expensive interceptors for cheap aluminum and explosive payloads. Stay with me, because the final move isn't a traditional shot across the bow. It is a terrifying demonstration of integrated network lethality. While the Iranian commanders are probably popping cheap champagne in their bunkers, convinced they have forced the Americans into a mathematical no-win scenario, the machine brain of the Aegis combat system is already 10 steps ahead, crunching millions of variables per second without breaking a sweat. If you ask why the American captains aren't sweating, I will tell you an unbelievable military secret that changes everything. 2:44 a.m. Inside the dimly lit coastal command bunkers of Iran, a wave of intoxicating arrogance washes over the men who think they just brought the American superpower to its knees. The radar operators are already leaning back in their chairs, pointing at the digitized screens with greedy smiles as the massive blip of the American supercarrier appears to be cornered by the invisible Sadaf 02 minefield. They are literally high-fiving in the glowing light of the monitors, absolutely convinced that their cheap, mass-produced fleet of Zulfikar speedboats is about to carve its name into the history books by sinking a $13 billion Titan. This is the ultimate peak of embarrassment. Watching an overconfident adversary celebrate a phantom victory while standing on a trapdoor that is about to swing wide open. A senior commander, chest puffed out with unearned pride, barks orders into a static-filled radio, demanding that the coastal missile batteries prepare for the final, glorious killing blow against the helpless American ships. The ordinary viewer might look at this chaotic scene and think the United States Navy is genuinely on the ropes, overwhelmed by sheer numbers and asymmetrical desperation. But those with an eagle eye for tactical warfare know exactly what is happening in the shadows of this digital battlefield. If you think the most powerful military machine in human history just sailed into a shallow bathtub to get bullied by retrofitted speedboats, you are in for a rude awakening. While the Iranian officers are prematurely drafting their victory speeches and dreaming of parades, they are completely blind to the fact that their supposedly secure communication network has already been hijacked. They are not the hunters. They are the trapped mice in a multi-billion-dollar kill web. Stay tuned, because the physics of destruction in the next 30 seconds is about to change the map of the Persian Gulf forever, turning their arrogant cheers into absolute deafening silence. Time to impact. 22 seconds. The thermal truth is about to get very, very loud. You do not want to blink right now. 2:45 a.m. Just as the Iranian swarm accelerates for the final kill, the United States Navy plays a trump card that absolutely shatters the illusion of a fair fight. Down in the black depths of the Persian Gulf, a snakehead unmanned underwater vehicle slips quietly beneath the hostile waves like a ghost in the machine. While the Iranian fast attack crews scream battle cries over their radios, the B-21 Raider loitering at 55,000 feet executes a cyber warfare masterstroke in under 15 milliseconds. This stealthy flying supercomputer does not just jam the enemy frequencies, it completely hijacks them, cracking the encrypted backbone of the Iranian Naval Command with terrifying ease. If you were the commander of that swarm, you would assume your smart minds are sitting quietly waiting for the American carrier. But here is the twist that makes this mission a masterclass in asymmetrical humiliation. Through the Snakehead drone, the B-21 broadcasts a spoofed acoustic pulse directly into the brain of the Sadaf 02 minefield, rewriting their targeting parameters on the fly. You see, the United States military is not going to waste a $2 million interceptor on a cheap speedboat when they can simply reprogram the enemy's own weapons to do the dirty work for free. Stay focused, because how this ends is a masterclass in making the enemy blink first. The Sadaf 02 mines, originally programmed to sink the USS Gerald R. Ford, suddenly uproot themselves from the ocean floor, their guidance systems totally corrupted by American cyber supremacy. In a synchronized ballet of mechanical treason, the explosive devices rotate 180 degrees. Now, instead of hunting the $13 billion supercarrier, they lock onto the acoustic signatures of the Iranian speedboats charging directly over their heads. Most people just see a chaotic battlefield, but those with a sharp tactical mind will recognize the genius. A calculated attempt to bankrupt the fleet's defensive shield has just been reversed into a massive self-inflicted slaughter. Time to impact: 12 seconds. The Iranian sailors staring at their sonar screens suddenly see their own trap light up directly beneath their fiberglass hulls. This is the ultimate cost exchange victory, using an adversary's own explosive investment to vaporize their fleet without firing a single American bullet. But wait, there is one more lethal layer to this triple threat failure. 0246 AM. The dark surface of the Persian Gulf erupts into a blinding graveyard of shattered fiberglass and vaporized ambitions as the hacked Sadaf 02 mines detonate beneath the Iranian fast attack fleet. 6 massive explosions rip through the water, transforming the speedboats into sinking scrap metal in a spectacular display of self-inflicted slaughter. The Iranian commanders ashore are frozen in absolute terror, staring at screens that just went dark as their multi-million-dollar swarm simply ceases to exist. But here is the genius detail that makes this a masterpiece of strategic intimidation. The moment the minefield is cleared and the enemy jammers are exposed, the all-seeing brain of the Aegis combat system restores its god's-eye view over the battlefield. The time for passive defense is over. The era of absolute mechanical punishment has begun. The massive steel hull of the USS Winston S. Churchill violently shudders as its vertical launch systems unleash a flawless wall of fire. Do not blink, unless you want to miss the moment physics rewrites history. Blazing Rim 162 evolved Sea Sparrow missiles execute 50 G-turns, ripping the Noor cruise missiles out of the sky like cheap clay pigeons. For the Khalij Fars anti-ship ballistic missiles screaming down at Mach 3, the RIM 174 SM-6 interceptors meet them head-on, turning a hypersonic threat into a harmless fireworks display. As the Iranian submarines blind-fire their high-speed Hoot torpedoes, the Churchill casually responds by dropping Mark 54 torpedoes directly onto the enemy coordinates. From high above, F-35C stealth fighters drop AGM-158C LRASM missiles that ignore decoys, striking the remaining Iranian floating command centers. Simultaneously, a relentless rain of BGM-109 Tomahawks turns the arrogant coastal bunkers into smoking craters of ash. If you were an Iranian officer watching this one-sided massacre, you would realize you just brought a pocket knife to a supersonic gunfight. 4:30 AM. The Persian Gulf abruptly falls into a terrifyingly quiet stillness, the kind of silence that only follows absolute dominance. In less than 6 minutes, the Iranian naval threat has been systematically erased from the tactical displays as if it never existed. The USS Gerald R. Ford sails smoothly through the dark waters, its $13 billion hull without a single scratch, protecting the trillion-dollar global trade routes. If you look at the economics of this slaughter, you will see a flawless American masterclass. Iran just burned through $1.2 billion of heavy naval hardware, gaining absolutely nothing but smoking craters and national embarrassment. Meanwhile, the American fleet barely dented its deep magazines, utilizing its network to hijack the enemy's own weapons instead of wasting precious interceptors. But here is the catch that the Iranian planners missed. The United States did not just survive, they collected terabytes of electronic intelligence. Stay with me, because the final move is a strategic checkmate. The real nightmare for the Iranian high command is not the burning wreckage of their fast boats polluting the Gulf. It is what they cannot see. While the Aegis system was vaporizing missiles and the B-21 Raider was hacking the smart mines, the American kill web was quietly downloading the entire encrypted communication protocol of the Iranian military. They did not just repel an ambush, they stole the master keys to the enemy's kingdom. Right now, every single hidden coastal missile battery, every underground bunker, and every mobile launcher that fired tonight is neatly cataloged and painted with a microscopic laser target. The United States military is no longer playing defense. They have mapped the entire nervous system of the Iranian armed forces and are simply waiting for the order to unleash a relentless storm of Tomahawks. If you were an Iranian commander waking up tomorrow morning, would you try to salvage your shattered pride, or would you start begging for a ceasefire? Let me know your Grandmaster tactical move in the comments below and subscribe for more American firepower.